In the early 2000s, mobile phones were simple devices. They were made for calling, texting, and maybe taking a basic photo. But then one company had a bold idea. What if a phone could replace your music player? What if your entire music collection could live inside your pocket? This is the story of Sony Ericsson, the company that changed mobile entertainment forever, and the legendary Walkman phone that started it all. This is the story of the Sony Ericsson W800, a device that didn't just play music, it changed how the world listened to it. To understand the W800, we must first go back to 2001. At that time, two companies were facing serious challenges. Sony, a giant in consumer electronics. Ericsson, a leader in telecommunications. Both were strong, but the mobile phone market was becoming brutally competitive. Companies like Nokia and Motorola were dominating globally. So Sony and Ericsson made a strategic decision. They merged their mobile divisions. Thus, Sony Ericsson was born. The goal was simple: combine Sony's expertise in entertainment with Ericsson's expertise in mobile communication. It was a perfect partnership on paper. Sony would bring innovation in cameras and music. Ericsson would bring network technology. And together they hoped to build the future of mobile phones. Sony Ericsson started gaining attention with devices like the T68i. It was one of the first phones to feature a color display, Bluetooth connectivity, and modern design at a time when most phones still had monochrome screens. But the real breakthrough came when Sony Ericsson focused on two things: camera technology and music technology. They introduced the CyberShot branding for camera phones. And then came their biggest gamble, bringing the legendary Walkman brand into mobile phones. For those who grew up in the 1980s and 1990s, the Walkman name meant something special. Sony's Walkman cassette players changed how people listened to music. For the first time, music became portable. People could walk, travel, and live with their favorite songs. Sony wanted to recreate that magic, but this time inside a mobile phone. And in 2005, they did exactly that. On March 1st, 2005, Sony Ericsson announced something revolutionary: the Sony Ericsson W800, the world's first Walkman-branded mobile phone. When it launched in August 2005, it immediately stood out. Its design was unforgettable. A smooth white body with bright orange accents. It looked fresh, modern, and different. But this phone wasn't just about looks. It was built for music lovers. It featured a dedicated Walkman music player, MP3 and AAC support, stereo sound quality, and FM radio. And something very unique: a music-only mode. This meant you could use the phone as a music player even without a SIM card, just like a real Walkman. For many users, this was their first experience replacing an MP3 player with a phone. The W800 was more than just a music phone. It was a complete entertainment device. It included a 2-megapixel camera with autofocus, LED flash, and video recording. At that time, this was considered high-end. It also featured a 1.8-inch TFT display, 262,000 colors, Bluetooth connectivity, infrared transfer, and USB connection. Storage was also impressive for its time. It had 34 megabytes internal memory and expandable memory using Memory Stick Pro Duo. The phone even included a 512 megabytes card in the box, which was a big deal in 2005. But one of the most praised features was battery life. The W800 could provide up to 30 hours of music playback in flight mode. That was extraordinary. Even today, that number is impressive. The W800 became a massive success worldwide. Millions of units were sold. It appealed to young users who loved music, professionals who wanted an all-in-one device, and older users who appreciated simplicity. It proved something important. People didn't want to carry multiple devices. They wanted one device that could do everything. And Sony Ericsson delivered. Competitors quickly noticed. Motorola responded with the ROKR series. Other brands began focusing on music features. The mobile music revolution had begun, and Sony Ericsson was leading it. After the success of the W800, Sony Ericsson released more Walkman phones, including W810i, W880i, and W995, each improving music quality, design, and performance. Between 2005 and 2008, Sony Ericsson was at its peak. They became one of the most respected mobile brands in the world. Their phones were known for design, audio quality, and camera innovation. Everything seemed perfect. But the technology world changes fast, and a storm was coming. In 2007, Apple introduced the iPhone. Then Android arrived. The mobile phone industry changed forever. Touchscreens replaced keypads. Apps replaced basic software. Smartphones replaced feature phones. Sony Ericsson struggled to adapt. They were slow to move toward Android. They relied too long on older software platforms. Internal business challenges also slowed innovation. And slowly their market share began to fall. By 2011, the partnership was ending. Sony decided to buy Ericsson's share. In 2012, Sony Ericsson officially became Sony Mobile. The Sony Ericsson name disappeared, but its legacy remained, especially the W800. The phone that proved music and mobile technology belonged together. Today, every smartphone is a music device. Streaming apps, wireless headphones, portable libraries of millions of songs. All of this traces back to one simple idea: putting a Walkman inside a phone. And that is why the Sony Ericsson W800 will always be remembered, not just as a phone, but as a device that changed mobile history. Technology changes. Companies rise. Companies fall. But true innovation is never forgotten. Because some devices don't just sell. They change the future. The Sony Ericsson W800 was one of those devices.